Hey, and welcome back to the Author's Leverage. I love what I get to do. I really do. I get to talk to amazing people who are either authors themselves, they are in the book publishing industry, they're book writing coaches, all conversations and topics that are useful to anyone who's writing a book or has already written a book. There's still a lot of work to be done when it comes to getting our message out as authors. And I'm excited that I get to have these conversations with amazing leaders who are doing it and finding out ways that we can be more effective. So at the Authors Leverage, we're all about as a solution provider to authors, right? How can we repurpose what we've written and turn it into learning experiences online? We feel like that's the future of what's coming about, and we get to talk about these things. And I'm excited today. We have an amazing guest. This is actually part two, I should say, of our conversation because we attempted to do this before, and lo and behold, tech issues will happen, and as they tend to do. And so Priscilla and I had an amazing conversation that no one could hear because the audio was messed up. But nevertheless, second time is going to be just as good, and I'm really thankful that she's here. So let me introduce you to Priscilla. Priscilla Stephan is an intuitive business strategist and creator of the Soulfluent Leadership Archetypes, who helps soul-driven women entrepreneurs create sustainable, world-changing businesses that support the greater good. Through a powerful combination of practical business strategy together with soul guidance in the Akashic Records, she excels at helping people identify their zones of genius, step into powerful leadership, and live their purpose profitably. She's the author of the international best-selling book Soulfluent Leadership Business Guide. Amplify your message, visibility, and profits by leveraging your archetype that supports leaders to stay grounded in their vision and primed to lead themselves and the organizations boldly into the future with confidence, courage, and sustainable growth. So excited. Priscilla, welcome to the Author's Leverage.
Thank you for
Again,
having
part
me.
two.
Part
Yes.
two.
I'm so excited. And again, I want to make sure people see this beautiful work of art. Yes, we're both holding it. Soulfluent Leadership Business Guide. Such a powerful book for really anyone who's in leadership and wanting to extend your message. So if you're an author, you're definitely in the right place for today's conversation, because we want to talk about, first of all, this book, which I'm a huge fan of archetypal frameworks. I think as an educator myself, and just having that simplicity is so key. So Priscilla, I'd love for you to just to share, open up for us a little bit about yourself, what you're excited about today, and sort of how this book ties in. How did this come about?
Thank you for having me and for honoring me by purchasing a print copy of the book. So, hi, everyone. Um, this book was a labor of love. This was probably in 11 years of being a coach. The only thing, maybe like the truest thing that represented a gift of love and an honoring of a process that I'd ever done. I'm sure many people who listen to you have heard, write a book, it builds your authority, it brings credibility, it'll get you more money, you can hire more, be on stages and press. And I was like, great, that's fine. I didn't write, I didn't create this book for that. I created this book it was sparked from a conversation with a Facebook acquaintance who also did archetypal work around branding. And she was really breaking it down into how you could actually practically apply the archetypes into business or into branding in terms of the words that you use, the colors, the fonts, the message. And I was like, wouldn't it be cool to really bring theoretical archetypal energies and concepts to very practical, tangible ways that you can apply them, right? Because the application is where the rubber meets the road. That's why even in my bio, you read practical business strategy. How can you make it
Hmm.
simple, aligned with who you are in your soul, and really make it work for you? And so I use a tool called the Akashic Records. I think it bears mentioning here. You and I have had chatted about
Yes.
that. So this whole Soulfluent Leadership Archetypes body of work was channeled through the Akashic Records. The Akashic Records are a tool that it's just really a way to access your own soul guides and guidance and information for you to live your best life. It's a tool that I use in my life, certainly in every business decision I make. And when I learned to connect with my own guides and then with the guides of others, basically to do intuitive readings for others in 2014, um, as I began to incorporate that into my business, I realized that I had an ability to channel dense, complicated bodies of work for myself. I guess it was part of my own path, and the Soulfluent Leadership Archetypes is that. So all of this to say that this was a channeled body of work, right, that came to me in 2016, the fall of 2016. And I was like, oh man, this is intense. This is all about leadership and archetypes. Don't know anything about any of them. And so it took me a while to really sit with the information and to really let it sink in and to understand it. 2016, it feels like we were and the world was a very different place. And so, anyway, let's get back to August of 2020 when I had this conversation with this lady. And I thought, let me go into my records, let me talk to my guides and see, maybe we'll do a 10-page PDF, a little table, little thing. Cool. Well, 10 pages, turned into 50. And let's keep going 100. And now 222 pages later, we have a very practical business guide that shows you, based on your archetype, how to apply the energies, the words, the fonts, the business model, all these things, and how to, from your soul's perspective, how you best lead from your innate talents and strengths. So there are 5 archetypes. There's the mystic. I'm a mystic. We use our intuitive, creative, and healing abilities to elevate consciousness. Probably many of your colleagues and clients are mystics. There are the visionaries that are the disruptors of the status quo. There are the strategists that deal with more data and complicated systems and processes. There's the explorers that are all about living and leading experientially. And then there's the divine feminine that's about building businesses that are for and by community. We all have these archetypes within us, but there is a dominant one that will prevail in terms of how to grow your business in the greatest alignment with your soul design, your soul's blueprint for success. So basically, I started to channel this and realized, oh my goodness, this is a really cool project. And one thing that you had asked me to talk about was how really writing this book was an apprenticeship and a form of leadership. And it was an apprenticeship because as I was channeling the information, I didn't know what was coming through my fingertips as I was typing. It was really a study, a slow, kind of unsteady, an intense study of the work itself. How does it apply to people? How are these words and sentences given to me in the form and the way, what is said? And then, each archetype has a color, it has a symbol. And so I thought, well, let's also make it color coordinated. And then I decided to add in examples of businesses that represent each archetype. So you can get the feel, the words, the images that they use, and see how that gets evoked in you. So all of that to say is that the channeling was easy. It took me probably, 6 to 9 months, really taking it at my own pace. Mm-hmm. To channel that. And then I kept going through, developmental editing and copywriting, and there's a whole legal aspect to writing a book like this and getting permission to use, words and images. So it was a process, but it was really good because it allowed me to feel more confident in my work and to really feel that I had a substantial and substantive product that I could give people to start to understand themselves at a soul level around their innate talents and soul level gifts, and how to then start to apply them in business in a way that would be sustainable and really joyful and profitable.
This is huge. And for those that are interested in checking out the book, like she said, there are color coordinated pages here. The practicality of the book is it's just there. I've already highlighted words in here in this section on brand words. So when she's talking about practicality, it's not just oh, here's some exercises to do. It's actually she's giving you as a leader, right, the right words to use in your messaging, right, the right colors, how things start to come together, even with photos of examples of, you know, websites, landing page, social media images that fit this sort of archetype that you are. And it's really this kind of work that is just so much fun to play with. I have to be honest, like the author's leverage, because a lot of it's just there. It's so practical and easy to use. How I know that for, like you're saying, there was a lot of developmental editing that went into this and just different aspects that had to get pulled out. Like what sort of team effort was this? Is this you 100%, or, you know, were other people involved to support this coming about?
Yeah, I didn't set out to write out a book, probably just so
That's
I
true.
wouldn't freak out, you know? And so it just kind of kept on growing. And I was like, oh, how does, now that I have the copy, and it was really, you know, the guides give really great copy. But then I was like, there are some words like the matrix that was supposed to be like the 2-page overarching matrix of all the things was 6. So I was like, that's a bit much. We got to like condense it.
Hmm.
And so how, it was just really like, how do we tighten this, and can I get a fresh pair of eyes? So then I had a dear colleague, Madeline, who I said, can you just look through this and tighten it? And so she did that, and that made it just even more juicy and
Oh,
popping, you
Madeline
know?
Eno.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that was like, and it was just nice to, and I also, the first versions of the book, I went through like a dozen friends, and I went through a book peer review to get insight, which can be tricky, right? Even if they're people that I trust, you know, everyone has an opinion, and at some point you still have to go with what
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
you believe. And so from there, I knew that, I knew I needed to hire a book coach, which was Shonda Trofe, who I connected you to, and she had a program that, allowed, that kind of took you through, like, you know, getting the book onto Amazon, and then the whole marketing and promoting of it. But I'm a good project manager myself, so I sensed that, you know, these are the next steps, you know. And
Hmm.
so I had my graphic person, and then I had my graphic other person to do both the cover and then also all of the design of it. And so it was kind of an ongoing, gradual process, you know. And I knew I wanted to self-publish. I knew this had to be in color just because it's color
Hmm.
coordinated.
Hmm.
And I wanted it to be very visually appealing. And so from August of 2020, by the about August of 2021, the book was pretty much ready. You know, cover, it didn't take that long. It took me a while just to channel the information, to sit with it, go through some of the edits, and you know. And then once I hired Shonda, you know, she helped me finalize the title, the cover design, you know. And then the key thing that I will say that I knew was really important is that, you know, when you don't understand a process that is as complex, you know, in terms of sub details that you have to do like a book, it's so important to hire someone that knows
Hmm.
the thing. And so Shonda was instrumental in, you know, telling me, Priscilla, you need an introduction here, right? The guides didn't didn't give me that at first. So I wrote, you know, very little of this was my writing. I actually wrote the introduction.
Hmm.
I channeled the conclusion, and then she reminded me, Priscilla, you have a quiz. Make sure to actually incorporate the quiz in there. I hadn't thought of the obvious, you know? I was like, oh dear God, that's of course. And then she said, maybe just switch this into here and that over there. And so she had, you know, and then also I had then I sent the book out for like, um, real reviews of people that would actually be reviewers in the book, in the back of the book. And so she kind of guided me, well, this is how much you need words in the back of the book in terms of, and this is the bio. And this is what Amazon will appreciate. This is what will not, you know, Amazon will get picky about. And so she really helped me with those fundamental things. She read the entire book and she gave me her feedback. This is good. This is quality work, you know. And then she gave me all these questions to consider. You know, who is the audience for this book? You know, are you clear about how this will help them move forward? Are there next steps, you know, in the book? And I hadn't incorporated, like, you know, this is who I work with, and if you want more, then this is how you contact me. And then at the end, I remember to add the leadership ascension journey component, which was really initially, and this is what it looks like here for people. It's
Hmm.
another color coded diagram. Oops. Color is not helping with lighting, but pretty much what this is a reflection of my own kind of identity shift and growth as I kind of just chose to step into my own leadership through this work, because this work really was a call to action. It was an initiation when I got it in 2016. Okay, we're giving you an entire body of work, massive. Okay, do you want it? Do you not want it? Are you going to go all in? Are you going to kind of get wishy-washy? What kind of a person do you need to be to do that? Because all the ego stuff came up. That was why I was afraid of writing a book, and I wanted just to write a 10-page PDF, because I knew my ego was going to get activated. Oh, I'm going to be an author. This is going to be amazing. There's nothing wrong with that. But I've had to check my ego along the way. How much money is it going to make me? How famous am I going to be? And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but I've had to taper and balance do my checks and balances internally of expectations and timelines. And so that's why I say that this is a true labor of love. Like, I loved every second of this book, even the moments when I was like, I'm ready to be done. I just knew that it felt delicious to do. And I was so excited to see how it was coming together. And also, energy in, energy out. My energy was so loving and joyful that the response I was getting was equally, this is a great book, this is amazing. And so it was really encouraging to get that positive feedback. And I think the thing I'm most proud of is that this book has nothing to do with me. I'm the doula of it, but this book is not about me. This is not for me, it was an apprenticeship, but this book is for people that can really make a difference and really activate, ignite, illuminate the path for conscious leaders and entrepreneurs to make a real difference in the world by truly tapping into the truest and most beautiful, authentic parts of who they are. And that, to me, is the gift and the message of this book. And that's why it was so exciting to do it.
100%. It's so well done. I love even what you're saying. Like, this is something that you received, and it wasn't necessarily about you. Which you're right. There's not a whole lot about you in here, I think, except for just the bio or something. But it to me, it just speaks to just how much of a gift this really is and how unique it is. And even looking at some of the feedback that's come back from the book, I mean, it's really, you should read this before you write your business plan, right? This is something that's going to change in the future, right? How businesses are built. And I think that the key that you've tapped into in this is just bringing more self-awareness to the leader. So that way, where your strengths are, right? Like you said, we have all of these abilities, right? That show up we are explorers, we're visionaries, we're mystics. We have all those components, but where you shine most and strongest is really where to kind of dig your heels in and really create some change for other people with that gifting. And so when you consider this book, because you keep saying, of course, this was like an apprenticeship, but it also wasn't combined with you growing as a leader. So how would you say in general for authors, right? What is the true benefit of sitting with this process, and putting out I guess in some cases people consider it their life work. What is really the true benefit outside of kind of what you said, the glamour, the ego, those things that that come up, of course, which nothing is wrong with that. But what do you feel like is really the bigger picture for authors who set out to, put out work either like this or similar work?
I think it makes us stronger, clearer, maybe even kinder, more compassionate stewards of the work and the message that we are here to impart through the vehicle of book or books and all the extras that can come with that, and even our businesses. And by that I mean that leadership is, I know it's cliche, it is an inside job. You really have to, it calls you, the leadership ascension journey starts with the initiation where you get this call to lead. In the book, leadership is defined as contribution. It's your way of making a difference in the world, however you define it. So you feel the call, and then there can be a denial of, this isn't for me. Oh no. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to do it. Right. And then you go through kind of a dissolution, that chrysalis phase of dissolving those beliefs and narratives and patterns that you've had that aren't really in alignment with what the work is calling from you and of you to really be its champion in the world. And then there's kind of, you feel like this internal restructuring happen, and then you kind of come out kind of with a new perspective of yourself and your work, which is where I call the new level leader. And so it really is a process, and the identity crisis will really feel messy as all shit, because you're bumping up against those edges and fears and narratives, whether it be, I can't put out a book on soul. Who's going to believe me? It's going to be, they're going to think I'm a total quack, or I'm not a real leader. I haven't done all these things. Who's going to listen to me, right? I don't know what I'm doing. How am I going to fund this? How long is this going to take? What is my family going to think of me? What are my friends going to think? So everything that you can imagine gets, all the buttons will get eventually pushed.
Mm.
And it will stretch you to re-examine and reassess and reprioritize what matters, and to really look at, well, what's the truth here? If I just strip everything down, what's the truth? Do I want to do this? And if I'm going to do this, what kind of a person do I need to become to really lead and champion this work so that it really aligns with its energy and its frequency? I believe that our businesses and our books have a frequency. They have an energetic signature that kind of speaks to certain and resonates with certain people. And so the apprenticeship then in turn makes us, I think, hopefully a little more humble, but also a lot more confident, and really more fluent and more versed in our work. And I think that's what I mean by apprenticeship. I feel a little bit more fluent and a little bit more versed. And at the same time, because my work in particular is so dense and profound and rich, I still feel like I barely am scratching the surface.
Mm, mm. There's yeah, you can definitely go deep on workshops. There's so many other aspects just on each of these
Yeah.
archetypes. Because I know I'm a mystic. I fall under that as well, as I know a lot of visionaries do. And just having this as a resource is huge. Like I do pull it out from time to time, especially if I'm writing copy or just seeing, like, what are some of the things that are coming about that would be useful with what my gifts are, so that way I can show up that way.
Yes,
Um,
exactly. I would totally agree. And one thing I want to mention, so the book has, for each archetype, there are several sections, and this is in the table of contents, right?
mhm,
There's always both an overview. You can find at the end of each section, there's an overview of the topics that we discuss, kind of like a skim through if you need a
mhm,
quick reminder. And there's also the overview matrix that you get at the front of the book that has everything about every archetype in all these sections.
yeah.
And in each chapter, then you get more details. So for each of the archetypes, we will look at your vision, your manifesting style, branding, which includes colors, brand words, content, marketing, energy to express yourself, your marketing, your business model, team building, mindset, and then some reflection questions, to really get you to deepen into yourself. And at the end of the book, there are even a few pages if you want to use the book kind of as a little notes. There's some notes at the end where you can just take notes if you don't, if you want to keep them nearby. And one thing that's really important is that, when we lead, we do come up against both our strengths and also what I call our kryptonite, right? Those elements of our personality that really can hold us back and stop us in our tracks from really stepping into what we're here to do. And so this I decided to add in. It's on page 27.
Mhm,
Oops, it's called the kryptonite and antidote matrix. And so it's hard for me to see here, but pretty much,
yeah.
like it goes into what are your superpowers. So if you're a mystic, your innate gifts are intuitive, creative, and healing. Your kryptonite, what stands in the way of you leading for many mystics, it's self-doubt, fear of embracing their spiritual gifts or coming out of the spiritual closet. And then there's the antidote, right? What's the path to taking action and being fully yourself, right? And so for a mystic, our the antidote to our self-doubt and fear can be to be authentic. And what I mean by being authentic, it means to really come from the heart, right? When we get really afraid of what are people going to think of me, or what am I going to say? What's the right thing to say? Come back to the heart and say, what is true? What is the kind and loving wisdom that I have to share with others that can help them? And so oftentimes when I'm not sure what to say, or when I get really in my head, I just say, if I were just being completely genuine and coming from the energy of love and truth and wisdom, what wants to be expressed here? That
Mm,
always becomes an antidote to a lot of the time the crippling um, fear. My fear buttons were majorly activated as I started to put this work together. Because back in 2016, before even the Trump years and a pandemic, it felt like everyone was just like hunky dory and it felt like leadership as usual. And this book is designed to help people be the fullest expression of themselves, to follow their soul's blueprint for success and leadership and contribution, because the world is calling for different paradigms and systems and
mm,
processes that are inclusive, that are kind and compassionate, and that create a better world and a better planet and a surviving planet. God help us moving forward. And so that means that the kinds of leaders that are being called forth are going to be more expressed, they're going to be more confident, they're going to be the spectrum of expression and self-expression, we are hoping, will be much more rich, deep, and full, right? So a world where mystics are hiding in their closets because they're afraid of being burned at the stake, right? It's not going
mhm.
to be helpful to the world, or visionaries that are afraid of speaking up, even though that's what they're designed to do. That's what they're here to do. And so it's really a permission slip. I've heard some people say it's a way of feeling recognized and seen by many. And it's a way to see a path forward, to lead, and to see others doing the same so we don't feel alone.
It's huge. And the book, and I'll just bring this up again. Everybody, let me bring this up full screen so that everybody can see this, because I really want to just emphasize, like, this, I feel like is just such an incredible resource for any business leader, especially authors that are tuning in, because this is just going to give so much more clarity, as I mentioned, just that self-awareness that is so needed going forward, especially as we're sharing our messages and we're teaching what's in our hearts and what we've seen evolve in our leadership, right, and in our businesses. So I highly, highly recommend it. A link to the book is going to be somewhere around this video or audio if you're tuning in. And also, Priscilla, if you would share a little bit about, how you're working with people these days, what you're excited about, if anything is coming up that's noteworthy that we can help and share and let the listeners know about.
Thank you for asking. So, I work with more established or seasoned women entrepreneurs that have usually a service based business that's actively supporting the greater good, right? So, it's a purpose driven, mission driven business. And so, those are the kind of the people I work with. Many are mystics, but not all. And I work primarily one on one in terms of supporting them in their business, and I provide the truth and honesty along with the work. This really everything is from the soul, so I always provide the soul perspective from the Akashic Records in terms of guidance around message, marketing, business model, team building, and really your leadership. Refinement and honing who you are as a leader to lead the vision and be the
Mm,
steward of this big thing. So I work one-on-one with clients primarily. And if you're listening before September, I also do teach how to access the Akashic Records in September. Mid-September, I'm teaching level 2, which is where you learn how to read the Akashic Records of others, which pretty much means do intuitive readings and connect to the soul guides of others. The prerequisite is that you know how to read your own records first. And that's something that you can, I teach too, but I'm not teaching it before this one. So you can learn from somewhere else or do a self study. I just need you to be versed in your ability to connect to your guides so that you can. And this training is extra special because you're not only connecting to to the records of others, but you're also learning to read their soul wealth blueprints and the soul wealth blueprints of businesses. So it's pretty rich in a 30-day experience.
that's incredible. Thank you for sharing, and we'll be sure to link to your website, and you'll be able to get more information on those links, which is great. And as we're wrapping up, Priscilla, thanks again for being here. I want for you to share any last parting words of advice or wisdom that you might have for authors and publishing experts that are tuning in. And as well, one of my favorite questions to ask is, what is your one word? If there was one word that was your Priscilla's message to the world, and you only got one word to say, what would that word be?
Truth.
Truth. I love it. I love it. And why truth?
Because it's how we stay in alignment and integrity with ourselves and with our souls. The truth does not lie. I always tell people this. So the truth is simple. May
Mhm.
not feel easy, but it's simple, right? Do you stay? Do you leave? Do you write? Do you don't? Do you quit? Do you start again? We know the truth. We may deep down, even if it's like I don't know what it is yet, but if that's the truth, then that's the truth. Truth is really that compass for a life that is really rich and meaningful, and also really courageous. And my last thoughts in terms of I always knew I would be an author. I didn't know it would be in a channeled body of work. And I think that make sure to find people that really you resonate with, who will help you write the book. I don't think you need to, spend a gazillion dollars on these packages sometimes with people. But I will say, in full transparent honesty, it took me from beginning to end, if I tabulate all the costs, about $10,000 to self-publish this book. And it wasn't right away. And it was worth every penny. And so just believe in yourself and get the support you need. And it doesn't have to cost a fortune necessarily. And then ultimately, you have to trust that it's the right timing, the right thing, and then just be excited about it, because it's important to love the project and to really always be true and be honest about your reasons for why you're doing it. Not right or wrong, it's just be honest.
Wow. That is huge. I've definitely taken away something with that. Just that there is that resounding word of the truth, and just how essential that is to just how we evolve and how we honor that within ourselves. So thank you again, Priscilla, for being here. This was so good. Part 2 is even better than part 1. Uh,
Good.
we'll have to do this again at some point and just continue to have the conversation, because I know that, but as you mentioned, with a lot of these topics, they just continue to evolve, as more things come about. So congratulations again on this work, and I'm so excited for you. Thanks again for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's been a
Yes.
pleasure.
Yes. And again, thank you all for tuning in to this conversation. I love these. If you know someone else that needs to be on, that you think would be great to hear and to share on the podcast as well, please reach out to us at theauthor'sleverage.com. And before I let you go, I'm going to let you know about a quiz that we just developed called the Book to Course Scorecard Quiz. So if taking your book and your life's work that you've written, if you think that there's potential that it could be repurposed as a learning experience online that can help you reach more people and create a revenue stream from it, I would love for you to take a quiz. It's a quick quiz that we developed that'll help you answer the question, should I turn my book into a course? So you can check that out at theauthor'sleverage.com and take it and let me know what you think. It's been really exciting, just all the conversation that we've been having, just to see what makes for a successful course and what doesn't. So take the quiz, find out what it is, and tune in for more resources that we're going to be coming about for authors here at the Authors Leverage. So thanks again, and thanks to Priscilla for joining us today. Such a good conversation. Pick up the book. Just have it. This is just something that needs to just sit on your bookshelf and you pick up and reference for yourself as you're developing as a leader, as an author, and all the things. So thanks again.